Hi, good morning, everyone. Or I guess it just turned to be noon, so I guess I should say good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I am attorney Sasha Westerman Kuning, for those of you who don't know me that well. I am a board certified immigration attorney here in Florida, based out of Fort Lauderdale. And I wanted to talk today. We've been getting a ton of questions about how obviously the coronavirus pandemic is affecting our immigration clients. Are we working? Are we seeing issues that we haven't seen before? And I also just wanted to, I've been postponing this for a while, just talk about general immigration trends that we have been seeing over the course of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, major changes that we are experiencing. So first of all, I posted about this yesterday, but I am just going to reiterate this part right now about the actual closures that we have with immigration right now. So obviously for the safety of the public, for the safety of the workers at USCIS, the immigration courts, the consulates abroad, all of them are currently closed to the public. So USCIS is closed to the public. That means no green card interviews, no citizenship interviews, no fingerprint appointments, and no what we call info pass appointments, no in-person appointments for passport stamps and in-person services. The consulates are now closed to visa interviews and all routine visa services. And the immigration courts, the non-detained courts, meaning people that are not in detention centers, all of the hearings have been canceled. And the detained courts continue to proceed, obviously, because we don't want people waiting unnecessarily in detention for their cases to be heard. So they are proceeding with all hearings at the detained immigration court. However, the non-detained immigration court, the hearings are canceled. The court itself is open, and all filing deadlines have to be met. And again, USCIS, although it's closed for in-person services, the agency itself is open. All the service centers continue to operate, and as far as we know, they haven't made any announcements about reduced operations. I'm assuming obviously they must have some staffing shortages, like every business, because of people either being sick or people needing to obviously take care of children or parents or whoever. But generally, those cases are processing, and we've been getting approval notices in the mail. We've been getting requests for evidence in the mail. So we know USCIS is continuing to be busy at work, even though they are closed for in-person services. So that's kind of the overview of what's happening just generally in immigration with the closures. Now, how do those closures affect people? Well, there's a lot of different, obviously, negative effects that we're seeing from these closures. Obviously, it's very disappointing to have been waiting, in line for months and months and months just to have your green card or citizenship appointment canceled. We had clients that had already had their citizenships approved and just were going to have their oath ceremony, and all the oath ceremonies were canceled. So it's like you're that close to becoming a U.S. citizen, and now you're going to have to kind of wait indefinitely. As of now, USCIS has said they had said they were going to be closed till April 1st. Now they've extended that till April 7th. We'll see if they extend that again. But obviously, like I said, it's very disappointing. But for me, I think the impact is even worse on two different types of people that have to go for in-person services. Those awaiting fingerprint appointments, all of the fingerprint appointments have been canceled. And fingerprint appointments, you have to get your fingerprints cleared, for example, in order to get your work permit issued. So if you're in line for a work permit and your fingerprint appointment was canceled, that's going to ultimately delay the final issuance of that work permit, which obviously, with everything that's going on, not that there's any jobs right now, but in theory, if you've been waiting for your work permit and you haven't been fingerprinted, if you get delayed a month on your fingerprint appointment, it's going to mean a month delay on the issuance of that card. Now, the other thing we've been seeing is, when my green card has expired, or I lost my green card and I filed for a replacement green card, I have to go down to immigration and do a in-person appointment called an info pass and get a stamp placed in my passport so that I can travel as a green card holder while I'm waiting for that either renewal card to come in or for my replacement card to arrive. And it takes months for these things to happen. So while you're in that line, you can get a stamp in your passport so you can continue to travel. I had several clients who needed those stamps in their passports, had in-person appointments set, and now they were canceled because they can't go in person to USCIS, and they are stuck now. Many of them wanted to travel to either get out of a pandemic area or to be with family members during this time. And, they are not going to be able to do that until USCIS reopens and able to issue those stamps. So, there's very real world consequences to those closures. Now, the other thing that we're seeing happening is, obviously travel restrictions. When you're an immigration attorney, travel restrictions. Hi, Munir, good to see you. When you are subject to travel restrictions, that obviously affects immigrants dramatically more than other people, in the sense that, obviously we have visa expirations, and we right now have been getting a ton of inquiries from people who, for example, are here as tourists with a 6-month stay, and that stay is going to, let's say, expire in April, and they're concerned now because they're not able to book a flight home, and some of them also just for safety and health reasons don't want to get on a plane, which is, completely understandable at this time. And so now they're looking to us to help them file extensions of their stays so that they don't inadvertently overstay their visa in the United States because of travel restrictions. This also really affects people who entered on what we call the visa waiver program, from Europe and whatnot, who have a 90-day stay in the United States. Normally, you're not allowed to extend or change status from when you enter on ESTA. But right now, CBP has put a procedure in place to give an emergency 30-day extension, which is something called satisfactory departure. But it does normally require going to a Customs and Border Protection deferred inspection site. So, for example, deferred inspections is a special office at the back of, down here in South Florida, in the back of the Miami International Airport. And you go there and you show them that, your plane was canceled, or you just cannot book a new flight. Or, for example, if I'm from Italy, you cannot enter Italy at all. There's no exit entry restrictions are really strict. Can't really fly there at all. You can show them that your 90 days is going to expire soon, but you just cannot, because of circumstances beyond your control, depart the United States timely, and they'll give you that 30-day extension, which hopefully will be enough to be able to then travel. 30 days may not even be enough for some people, but the law does not permit the ESTA extension beyond 30 days, and it's already a challenge to even get them, although they've said that they're going to be flexible, obviously, right now at this time. Hi, Junavia, how you doing? I hope you and Sadi are doing good. Thanks for joining. You guys, post in the comments. I am reading them. I will say hello to you, or if you have a specific question or topic that you want me to address, please feel free to put it there in the comments. Anyways, so like I was saying, the travel restrictions, of course, are greatly affecting immigrants. And I was talking about people being stuck inside the U.S. We also have the reverse, where we have people stuck outside of the United States. And we're seeing two different types of scenarios playing out outside of the United States that could greatly impact individuals' immigration status. One, we have people who were issued their green cards status outside of the U.S. at the U.S. consulate. We call that an immigrant visa. An immigrant visa is a green card status. And I'll accept that friend request soon, Ankit, okay? Thanks for reminding me. Anyways, I was saying that we have people that were issued immigrant visas, and they have a 6-month expiration date. Now, sometimes people, for example, if I'm the brother, sister of a U.S. citizen, I may have been waiting 14 years in line to finally get this green card. So often, when I go through that consular process, if I've been living in my home country my whole life, I own property, I have a business, I might not necessarily be ready to come to the United States right away after my consular appointment. So we have a 6-month usually window to enter on your immigrant visa to start becoming a resident in the United States. And some people need that full 6 months because they need to be able to sell a property, wind down a business, whatever the case may be. And we have people who are coming up to the expiration of that 6 month period, and the regulations don't allow for that visa to be extended. And we have a few clients, for example, several Chinese nationals that in April, end of March, their immigrant visas will expire, and their residency now is completely at risk because there's technically no procedure for the consulate to be able to reissue that immigrant visa. Now, of course, this has become a major concern, and the American Immigration Lawyers Association has addressed this with the Department of State, and they're trying to figure out a way to come up with a procedure that once the consulates reopen, to be able to reissue these visas when technically there is nothing in the law that allows them to do this. So there's just a whole gambit of problems that we're seeing that stem from Corona itself, and more than Corona, the actual virus, but the travel restrictions that are coming with Corona. And so we're kind of in a unique situation where, unlike a lot of businesses that have been negatively affected by Corona, we are dealing with an uptick in consults, in conversations for people that are experiencing these issues. Every day I'm getting an email from a prior client or a new client regarding these specific Corona-related travel issues. So it's very, very concerning to people. And unfortunately, what I keep telling people is that we've gotten very little official guidance from any of these agencies on how they will proceed. So the questions on how they are going to fix these issues that are obviously completely beyond people's control have been posed by the liaison committees of the American Immigration Lawyers Association to the appropriate agency, whether it's the Department of State that runs the consulates or the Department of Homeland Security, which runs USCIS, and they have not given fixed answers yet. I don't think they even know or had an emergency plan in place for if something like this did happen, what would they do? And so I think that alone is very telling that there was never any emergency procedures, contemplated by any of these huge and vitally important government agencies. So, hopefully this will be an eye-opener to them that they need to have these types of emergency disaster plans in place in case something like this, or, I can't even imagine anything like this happening again, but, something similar happening in the future where we really, have this worldwide issues that affects people, in the United States, outside the United States, all over the world. The other issue that we're seeing abroad is green card holders. They're subject to rules on their residency. The most basic rule being that you have to live in the United States and that you can't spend more than 180 consecutive days outside of the United States, or you can be charged with what we call abandonment of residency, meaning that they don't think that your primary home is in the United States as a resident. And so we have people that, went on extended trips, usually to their home countries to visit family, etc., and now have gotten stuck there and are likely to exceed the 180 days that they're allowed to be outside of the U.S. consecutively on their green cards. They've obviously come to us looking for guidance, and we are really unable to provide any strict guidance. I keep telling people I'm assuming that people in these agencies, whether it's CBP, the consulates, whomever is looking at those situations, that they are going to be flexible with people, because these issues are obviously completely outside of their control. So, we're being optimistic, but the reality is this is immigration under the Trump administration, and they could use this as a tool to say, hey, you were outside of the U.S. 180 days, we're going to make it really tough for you to keep your green card. I'm hoping that they will not do that. But that is always a fear that now people have, that if they can't come back before the 180-day mark, that they may have issues with their residency, even though it was beyond their control. Or, immigration has sometimes taken the position that if a flight is open, you got to take it, even though there are people that just for health and safety reasons do not want to go on a plane. So, CBP, for example, has said if you want to extend your 90 days on ESTA, you need to basically bring them proof of a flight cancellation or proof that you're unable to book a flight to your home country. But there's some people that there may be flights available to their home country, but they just, for safety reasons or because they're immunocompromised, do not want to board an aircraft at this time, which I think is a totally reasonable and valid concern, especially if you are one of those people who is immunocompromised. The other thing that we're seeing a lot of is people calling us and asking us about unemployment benefits. We have people who have work permits under asylum cases, under green card cases, under different statuses, who are obviously, like many Americans, losing their jobs at this time and want to know, can they apply for employment benefits? And obviously, if you've been following any immigration news, in the past year, you may have seen that there is a lot of new information coming out about a reinterpretation of something called the public charge rule. I did a video on this. It's on my YouTube page just a few days ago. And that, public charge determination is very focused on, will the intending immigrant, the person who's trying to get the green card, will they be a risk of using public benefits in the future? So people are afraid. Hey, Alva, good to see you. Thanks for signing on. Sorry that your interview got canceled. We're going to get rescheduled soon. That's a corona victim right there of an interview cancellation. So, people are waiting patiently for their interviews and their citizenship ceremonies and all this to be rescheduled, but it's really tough on people. It's like you got to the end of, you're in mile 25 of 26 of a marathon and you break your ankle. And so, it's very, very, very tough for people in that situation to keep, positive when USCIS really hasn't indicated exactly 100% when it will reopen. And of course, then they have to send the notices for the interview rescheduling. So, people may be looking at a month or two delays on their re-interviews. So, like I said, that's heartbreaking for a lot of people. But going back to the unemployment benefits, like I was saying, this public charge rule is about whether or not the people will be more likely than not to use public benefits in the future. And so people have been, contacting us like crazy. If they're offered unemployment benefits, will this make them ineligible for their green cards under this public charge rule? And people that already have green cards have been asking, can they get unemployment benefits? Right now, all of the guidance suggests that unemployment benefits are totally fine. Unemployment is paid into the system. I know this. I'm an employer. I have 10 employees. I pay a lot of money into the unemployment system. There's both state unemployment taxes that the employer pays, and they call it a fund, unemployment fund, and federal unemployment fund, the taxes that you pay. So your employer, as part of your W-2 payments, has already been paying into the unemployment fund just for a rainy day like this in case you needed to collect unemployment. So because that's a paid into system, it's not a public benefit. It's an employer floated system that we pay into as the employers ourselves. You are allowed to apply for unemployment benefits. And of course, I'm encouraging everybody who, is challenged with employment right now, that if, their work is offering unemployment benefits, to go ahead and apply for them. Like, you guys got to eat, and we get that. So, we don't believe that's going to be held against people in the future. And, obviously we are in strange times that have never happened before. I was on the phone with my grandfather 2 days ago, who's 90 years old. And I asked him, in your 90 years, have you ever seen anything like this? And he was like, no, never in my life. And, he watched World War II. He was a vet himself, and he's like, no, this is the craziest stuff I've seen like in my lifetime. So, we're just living in a time when things are extremely strange and unusual, and we're all having to adjust to this hopefully temporary new normal. But it's that's one of the biggest inquiries we've been getting is about um, obviously unemployment benefits. So, we've been seeing, like I said, Corona affecting people in a variety of different ways. And, we're hoping that it will pass within the next, month or two. Unfortunately, I do think the United States has been slow on its response. And so I think we are going to get hit hard like Italy and, half even Wuhan, China, which was able to really contain and control their pandemic. We're basically on lockdown for about a 2-month period. So I suspect that we are headed in that same direction. We are in Broward County. Broward County does have a stay-at-home order right now. And we are lucky that we fall into an exemption for essential businesses. You can see I'm in the office right now. I'm only come to the office once or twice a week right now just to, you see I got a case that I need to sign and file right here. And to collect our mail, we have green cards arriving into the office, work permits arriving into the office. Like I said, USCIS is completely operational. They have not extended any deadlines. They have not issued any guidance, for example, saying, we'll forgive you if your visa is going to expire and you don't file a timely extension because you can't get to a lawyer for paperwork or get the documents together that you need to file that extension. Another, we do a lot of marriage-based green cards here. Another, type of case that is a hard deadline that they've never said that they will extend is obviously conditional resident cards. For those of you who don't know what a conditional resident is, when you get your green card through marriage, this also applies to the EB-5 investor green cards as well. So we have two categories of conditional residents, EB-5 investors, which our office does hundreds of EB-5 green cards a year, and marriage cases, which we also do, probably 100 marriage cases at least a year. When a marriage is less than 2 years old at the time the green card is issued, you only get a 2-year conditional green card, and you have to do a specific onerous renewal process when that green card is expiring. There's a 90-day window from 90 days before the card expires to day 0 of the expiration of the card, where you must file to remove the conditions from your residency. So we obviously have a bunch of clients who are coming up on their green card expirations who need those removal of conditions to be filed. And that is a hard deadline. I mean, the statute actually says that if you fail to file your joint removal of conditions petition during the 90-day window, that the government shall, the word is shall, so it's what we call mandatory language, shall place you in removal proceedings. So if you do not meet that deadline, they are supposed to immediately place you in removal proceedings. In practice, there's so many conditional residents, they don't do that. It usually takes a while for them to figure out that someone did not file their conditional residency, and takes some time for them to put the person in removal proceedings. But, we're operating under the premise that, of course, there's no extensions to that, and it's a statutory rule. So I don't even think that, frankly, the government has authority to extend a conditional resident deadline. That's a hard deadline. You can request a late filing, and I think that they will accept late filing requests. If you say I could not send my case in because I couldn't get the documents together due to the corona epidemic, but we obviously don't want to be filing cases like that. We want to file them timely, and until now, they have not said anything about extending those deadlines. I mentioned earlier that the courts are open and filing deadlines continue to exist. We had a hearing set for early April that had a call-up date yesterday, and one of our attorneys actually physically had to go to the Miami Immigration Court and file the paperwork for the call-up date. Now, that hearing may end up being canceled. Right now, it's outside of the cancellation period that EOIR, that the Department of Justice has announced for the immigration courts. So we have to go with the assumption that that hearing may actually happen, and we had to file that paperwork. So because of that, because we are under legally mandated deadlines, we are able to fall into the essential work exceptions. and able to come to the office and everything. And frankly, we have to. I filed a motion yesterday. I filed a response to a request for evidence yesterday. All of these things have deadlines. And so they have not said anything about tolling deadlines. Appeals are a great example. If you get a denial, you only have 30 days to appeal that denial, and that's a hard 30 days. And there's been no announcements that they will toll that 30 days. Toll means, extend it. I have to go with the assumption that you must file that within the deadline. So, like I said, unlike a lot of businesses, we continue to operate 100%. We are still taking new cases because there are people that just need things filed now and cannot wait for all of this to pass over. So we, of course, are accommodating everyone. We obviously, have to follow all Broward County orders, and we are closed to the public, of course. But, we were always very much set up for remote work and had clients all around the world, and we're used to video chatting with clients, located in countries all around the world. So, for us, the transition was very easy to remote work. We're only coming to the office, to do physical filings and pick up mail and, things like that require us to come to the office physically. Now, I want to switch topics and just talk generally about some immigration patterns that we've been seeing emerge over the course of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. And this was something that I had been planning to do and just was so busy with work. And, fortunately now have a little bit of extra time to be able to spend with you guys and go over some of these really interesting patterns and trends that we have seen in immigration. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter what political party you are. I'm an independent, and I try not to judge people. The reality is, whether you like them or not, the Trump administration has made immigration much more difficult. Likely, if you're a Trump supporter, you think that's a good thing. If you are not a Trump supporter, you might likely think that's a negative thing. But what side of the spectrum it is, it's a reality. It's happening. They are fulfilling their campaign promises of trying to slow both legal and illegal immigration. And we see this in a multitude of ways, from little administrative things that they've done to just make filing cases harder, getting cases accepted harder, complying with deadlines harder, just attorney communications and person communications with immigration have become much more difficult. All of those things just make the practice of immigration law so much harder. But additionally, there's concrete, hard evidence that show that immigration has just become much, much harder. When it comes to work-based applications, and I am someone that practices and does, family-based immigration, removal immigration, meaning, deportation proceedings, asylum, and also does all different types of work-based in immigration cases, as well as investor visas and investor green cards. So I know the full gambit of how all of the Trump policies have affected immigration. Now, immigration laws can only be changed by our Congress. And they haven't passed any laws since Trump became the president. So we're not talking about congressional changes or anything like that. These are just policy changes, which, the Department of Homeland Security, which runs USCIS, is a secretary position, meaning that the Trump administration gets to appoint the secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and then they put all the workers in place. And so this trickles down from the very top, the attitude of who runs the agency and how they're going to interpret and apply the existing immigration laws. So there is a lot of discretion when it comes to the president having power over immigration. In that sense, it's not really, the president himself or herself, maybe in the future. It is really the fact that they get to appoint the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security and then all of the heads of the underlying agencies. Right now, these are people that are very unfriendly to immigration. So that unfriendliness to immigration trickles down from that very top into everything that they do, from the people who work in the mailroom to the people deciding the cases in the local office to all of the workers in the service centers. we are seeing that the level of denials has just skyrocketed throughout 2019 in all different types of cases. I sometimes tell people it doesn't matter if you're the best immigration attorney in the world, there's just certain cases that are not approvable anymore that could have been approved in the past because of the way that they are looking at certain factors and reinterpreting certain things under the immigration laws. Now, things like L visas, which have been a popular visa category for a long, long time, there's a lot of immigration lawyers that have been turning down tons of L cases because a case that could have been approved in the past, it's just they're too difficult now. They take too much effort to even get approved, or they're not approvable at all. And many immigration lawyers do not want to take on these types of cases. It's sad because people need great representation, but at the same time, to apply fees that really represent the amount of hours that would go into the case, it just becomes unaffordable for people. And for some immigration lawyers, they've just decided it's not worth their time and effort. And we're not there yet, thank God, but we have turned down many of these types of work cases, just saying that we don't think you're going to qualify. We think it's going to be a waste of your time and money. Now, when it comes to family cases, so actually we pulled up these statistics, and I'm going to read them to you so that you can get an idea of what are some of these dramatic changes that we're seeing. So, for example, in I-130, these are, I'm looking at a publication from the USCIS on their statistics. So these are not opinions, these are just facts about how much more difficult immigration has become. So this is the 2018 numbers, and they break it down by quarter. And for example, looking here at I-130s, which immediate relatives and preference relatives. So these are family-based petitions. They should be relatively easy. Marriage cases, parents cases, children cases, brother-sister cases. Unless it's a fake marriage situation, you expect these cases to be approved. If your brother's your brother, he's your brother. If your mom's your mom, it's your mom. Now, to put it in perspective, the fourth quarter of 2018, we saw 14,768 denials. Now compare that to the fourth quarter of 2019, 1 year later, we saw 28,650 denials. So that is double. We went from 14,000 something to 28,000 something denials of I-130 petitions in a 1 year time period. So this is not in the head of immigration lawyers that it's gotten much tougher. This is a reality. It's a fact. It's a numerical fact. We have double the amount of I-130 denials in a 1 year time period that we had before. I don't think the cases are getting any more challenging or anything like that. They are just so nitpicky about everything. They're just looking for reasons to deny cases, and they are denying whatever they possibly can. Now, green card applications, I-45 green card applications, this is just family-based applications. So let's take a look at those numbers here. Excuse me. So we had, sorry, this is very small print on these, and I probably should be wearing my eyeglasses if I'm really being honest. We had a jump of, sorry, here. Actually, the green card denials actually stayed pretty steady in the family-based category. So that's actually a pretty good sign. Now, when it comes to, let's see here, employment-based green cards, we saw a jump between last year and this year in green card denials. We also, let's see here, let's go to citizenship. Okay. Citizenship, we saw stay pretty steady on the denial rate, so that's good. So it looks like actually the I-130s, which people usually consider to be some of the easiest cases, having the biggest jump in denials. And I would assume that that has to do with marriage cases. We do see denials of brother-sister cases if, for example, the people can't get, like there's a delayed birth certificate registration or something like that. But, most of those cases are going to get approved. So I would assume that that jump in denials has to do with marriage cases. And I've been seeing some strange things, not personally, but, I belong to many, many, many. Oh, thanks for the compliment, Genevieve. I appreciate that. That we've been seeing in immigration lawyer groups that I belong to, we've been seeing really strange requests. Somebody posted, this is absolutely true, a lawyer posted a request for evidence the other day that was a marriage-based case, and the people have a child in common. And they actually posted language from this request for evidence where USCIS literally said that a birth certificate showing both parents' names was not sufficient evidence of a bona fide, a good faith, a real relationship between the married parents. And that was just like an eye opener for all of us immigration attorneys because, we've always assumed that, I always tell people, oh, you have a kid together. Like, that's such an easy slam dunk case. And they are now questioning whether people that have children together are really real married couples. So that just was a little crazy to me that they are even questioning any of that. And any event. So just like I said the green cards weren't too bad, but they still went up a lot to a certain degree. The first quarter of 2018, we saw 7,797 green card denials versus the first quarter of 2019, where we saw 11,841 denials. So that was a jump of 4,000, from 7,000 to, from about almost 8,000 to almost 12,000 green card denials. So that's actually pretty significant when you think about it. The third quarter of 2018, we saw 10,000 green card denials versus the third quarter of 2018, where we saw 15,000 denials. And the last quarter of 2018, we saw 11,000 green card denials versus almost 16,000 green card denials in the last quarter of 2019. So, I guess it's not double the way it was with the family petitions, but that's quite a significant increase. I don't know how to do math, but that is like a 2/3 increase. That's why I didn't become a doctor, guys, and became a lawyer. Numbers are not my thing. But a relatively significant increase in those types of cases, of course. So, oh my God, let's look at something. Let's look at asylum cases and see what was going on with asylum last year. So, asylums had a huge jump. Oh my God. If you guys could see how small this print is, you would see why I'm struggling so much. It's like the tiniest print in the world. I need a magnifying glass or something to be able to read these things. Let me see here if my little eyes can work. Let me see. So I think what's the scariest thing about the asylum statistics, and sorry, I know I'm blocking my face, is that at the end of 2018, we had 319,000 asylum cases pending, and we received 100,000 new applications during 2018. And at the end of 2019, we had 339,000 applications pending, and we received only 82,000. So it's like they're not even moving on asylum cases, which anyone that is in the asylum waiting line knows that. But that is a tremendous amount of asylum cases that are waiting in line, and they are making very little decisions on them. We saw, let's see, 17,000 approvals. Oh, no, wait, sorry, is that the right line? Yeah, 17,000 approvals of asylum during 2018. And let's see, for 2019, we saw 19,000. So that was actually an increase in asylum approvals, amazingly enough, considering I would say the environment towards asylum has gotten much more negative. Now, anyway, so I just wanted to bring those up to show people, that, like I said, this is not in people's heads. Sometimes when you see an immigration lawyer, they'll tell you, things have gotten much more difficult. Like I feel like a broken record sometimes telling that to people because, I always hear, the story of Fulanito, which is the Spanish way of saying like John Doe, who it was so easy for him and everything was why am I asking for so much stuff and being so picky about everything because Fulano did it 2 years ago and it was so easy for him. And I just keep trying to explain to people that even 2-3 years ago, and this is after Trump already became the president, obviously these things took a little while to trickle through the agency, that things have just become so much more difficult. And it's, like I said, not in my head. We have double the denials of family petitions, and we have about, a 2/3 increase of denials of green card applications, and that's from USCIS's own published statistics. So that's not the opinion of your immigration lawyer. That is a reality for everybody that these things are happening. And, unfortunately, we are seeing a huge increase in, generally in denials in all categories. And it's becoming harder and harder to process immigration, especially without a lawyer. One thing about the corona that may be positive is that we're hoping that it will put what we call notarios out of business. Notarios is, again, a Spanish term that we use for people that are not non-lawyers who file immigration forms. They exist in every nationality. We have a lot of Russian clients who have become victims of non-lawyers who tell them, pretend to be lawyers, or sometimes they even know that the person is not a lawyer, but they think it's cheaper and better to go to a non-lawyer. In fact, almost every person I speak to that uses the notario charge the same price that we would, or sometimes notarios charge even more because they're doing fraudulent things on your behalf, so they're charging more. And it's going to be very hard in this atmosphere to stay employed as a notario because things are becoming so difficult, especially with all the new public charge rules and all the documents that need to be filed under the new public charge rules. Now, again, I had told anyone, please feel free in the comments to post any questions if you have any questions so that I can go over them for you. One other thing I wanted to say about the impact of coronavirus that I forgot to say earlier was we have a lot of people here on employment-based visas. So let's say H-1B workers, L-1 workers, E-2 workers, whose status in the United States is tied to employment. So we've gotten also a lot of inquiries from people about what happens. They're already thinking ahead. They can see the writing on the wall that perhaps layoffs are coming due to obviously lack of business and lack of revenue for their companies due to the effects of coronavirus. And the reality is a lot of those people are going to be really screwed. Now, it depends on how it's handled. Like if the person's furloughed, technically you're still employed. So you can stay in the United States even though you're not being paid at that time because you're still employed by your H-1B, your L or H-1B company. The H-1Bs have very specific payment rules under the Department of Labor. So furloughing your employees, I think you actually still have to pay them if they're on H-1Bs. On E's and L's, it's easier to furlough and not have to pay and keep the person technically employed. But some people are just getting laid off straight up. And if you are on an L visa, you're an H-1B visa, and you get laid off, you really have to depart the United States within a 30-day period because your status is tied to your employment. If your employment is terminated, you are out of status. H-1Bs can try to file a change of employer if they get a new job in that 30-day period, but I don't think a lot of people are hiring for jobs right now, especially not H-1B positions, which are professional positions. maybe if it was like a delivery job, which we apparently need a lot more of right now because of Corona, then it would be possible. But for these professional positions, I doubt that there's most people are going to hire anybody now. And so that's a serious issue for people, because if you are laid off and your employment is tied, your visa is tied to your employment, you will lose your status. And then some people come from countries where you can't even get back to that country. So, for example, let's say I am a Chinese worker. I'm sure if you're in IT, probably your job's safe right now. But let's say or a healthcare worker, obviously things like that. But let's say I work in a law firm. I mean, that's an H-1B position. I unfortunately know many colleagues are already talking about having to lay off their staff because they're not having the revenue in, and they didn't have enough reserves to keep paying their staff. We're lucky that we are financially stable and will be able to keep all of our staff, thankfully, employed throughout this difficult period. But I know many immigration lawyers and other lawyers who, simply do not have the reserves to continue to pay their staff, beyond these last few weeks of staying at home. And because there's very little or no revenue coming into their business, will not be able to keep their people employed. So if you are laid off and you're a law clerk, you're a foreign attorney working in a law firm, and your employment is tied to your visa, you may have very big issues that you were not anticipating at all, because who was anticipating that Corona was going to take over our everyday lives? But that is a serious issue for people. I already had a few inquiries from, some of our L employees, L being that their visa classification, they're on an L as a manager or an executive or even a specialized employee, who believe that they are coming for a layoff this week or next week, and are really concerned about what they're going to do. And L workers are probably particularly vulnerable in the sense that is a transferred position. So you can only work in the U.S. for a company that you previously worked for abroad. So there's really no changing employers inside of the United States, because you wouldn't have worked for that foreign employer and be able to stay under that status. So some of those people are just going to have to go home. And, going back to my example of the Chinese national, you basically cannot fly to China right now. So you are at risk now of inadvertently overstaying your status. I mean, I would recommend those people, if they contact me, to probably file a change of status just to a tourist status, to be able to wait it out until they can physically fly home at some point, or find a new job. But it's very, very scary and serious repercussions to Corona that are impacting immigrants in many special ways that obviously Americans would not normally think about. So anyway, like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them there in the side. So I'm going to continue to be doing these Facebook Lives from either home or the office for the next few weeks. I hadn't been able to interact as much with my Facebook friends, and those of you who know me, I like to really be able to stay in contact with all my prior and current clients, and I think Facebook is a great way to do that. But I had been not very active on my account in the past year or so. Really, that has to do with just being so busy at work, and then having my baby girl at home. So not a bad thing. I guess busy being a mommy, and that little extra time that I had, to interact with all you guys on Facebook. I just don't have as much time anymore, living the working mommy life. But we are, obviously having a extra time all now, saving so much time, not having to drive back and forth from the office every single day, that I have this extra time to interact with all of you wonderful people who have tuned in this morning. And so, like I said, anyone that has any questions, I definitely recommend that you guys go onto my YouTube and watch that video on the public charge doctrine. It's really important if you are planning on filing for a green card, either yourself or you're in a relationship with a foreigner and you're planning on filing a green card in the future. if you are in the process of a fiance visa, we definitely recommend you watch that video, because eventually when your fiance arrives in the US or you arrive on your fiance visa, you're going to have to deal with all these public charge issues. So we want to make sure that people are already starting to think about that. I think that high unemployment rates are going to make all of this public charge processing much more difficult for people, since it's so focused on employment and people's tax history and people's, for people living abroad, their employment history abroad and things like that. That obviously people who have been lost their jobs because of Corona, whether it's the U.S. citizen or the foreigner, hopefully they won't look too down on that when they're making these determinations, understanding that nothing to do with the person's individual talent or qualifications or skills, that it's just collateral damage of this Corona pandemic, that people are going to lose their jobs. But like I said earlier in this video, immigration can be very unforgiving when it comes to those things. So we're just hoping that this doesn't have, even once everything calms down and is under control, that we don't see more widespread ramifications on people applying for green cards related to unemployment issues and tax income threshold issues. But honestly, if I had to really guess, I do not think they're going to do much flexibility on that. I think they're going to take it as an opportunity to do more denials. Like we were saying earlier, for those of you who are just tuning in, I've gone over the statistics earlier about the increases in denials of family petitions and green card petitions between 2018 and 2019 based on USCIS publishes statistics. And just to reiterate those, we saw double the amount of denials in family-based petitions, I-130 petitions, between 2018 and 2019. We saw about a 2/3 increase in green card denials between 2018 and 2019. Obviously, we won't know 2020 until the end of the year, what those statistics look like. But we can, if we were looking at a graphic, we can see that it's going up and up and up on green card and family denials. So anyways, I hope that this has been enjoyable. I said I was going to stay on for about an hour to see if anyone had any questions, any topics they want to discuss. I'm going to be doing future chats, so if you have a particular topic related to immigration, I would be happy to cover it. And, just shoot me a message or, put a comment in this post for later on. And, I'm going to be periodically coming on and doing these chats with you all. And, anything you all want to talk about, immigration related, non-immigration related, I'll talk about anything really. I know we're all bored in the house, so if you want to talk about your favorite food, I'm willing to do that too. But it's just nice to be able to, frankly, interact with other adult human beings, because I'm in the house with a 17-month-old toddler, and my conversations stem around Elmo and Mickey Mouse mostly. So it's nice to talk about a little more sophisticated with adults. Anyways, guys, we hope you are staying safe and healthy out there. And, like I said, if you are incurring any of these issues, please, call don't call our office really. Email us. Our phone is working, but our receptionist is at home. So you can't get through to us directly. Email is the best form of contact. Hi, Seshka. Good to see you and Josh. I did a video that I posted to YouTube on the public charge doctrine, and you may want to check it out and find it interesting. That's on my YouTube page, and I'll post that YouTube link into the comments later on, so you guys can check it out if you want to. But anyways, guys, please stay safe, stay healthy, get your vitamin C. I'm like a little bit of a hippie, so I also am taking like elderberry, and I'm like staging my house and like doing all of these things that I don't, hippies maybe not the word. I'm like a naturalist, let's say. Although I love Western medicine, I just believe we need a combination of Western medicine with ancient things that we know have worked over time. So I've been taking zinc and elderberry and trying to boost the immune system with all types of natural things. And, I hope you guys are too, because I don't want to hear about any, so far, I don't know anybody that has been directly impacted by corona in the sense that they've gotten very sick or had a death in their family. And I'm hoping to keep it that way. So you guys all, I care about all you guys out there in Facebook land. And I hope you all taking care of yourselves and staying at home as much as you can, washing hands as much as you can. And as soon as all this passes, guys, we're going to have to go and support all of our local businesses as much as we can. I'm hoping that, if you're a server or bartender, that, you're suffering right now. But I can tell you, for one, as soon as things reopen, like, I'm probably going to eat out for like a month straight. Hopefully you will recoup some of that income loss when we all go nuts, when they free us from our home prisons and we're allowed to go out and patron all of our favorite places again. I'm sure that there will be a huge uptick and then in normal sales at that point. So hopefully there'll be some sort of balance for people, because I know people are really suffering right now. Anyways, it's great to see all you guys. Thanks for everyone that dropped a comment, and you all have a good day. All right, take care. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.